Hello everyone. Today we're going to take a look at the fourth book study. We're not going super fast, just a few pages at a time, of the Key to Theosophy. And I have included a link to the original text that was written 130 years ago almost. And so you can follow along. I think we're doing pages 10 to 14 in the original text. And Theosophy is, get a lot of questions. People are saying, oh, I think I heard of that, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know what it was up until the early part of the noughties. So Theosophy, what is Theosophy? It's the essence of all religion and of absolute truth, and a drop of which only underlies every creed. And that is from the Key to Theosophy. That's from the book we're going to study today, which was written down by HPB, who also wrote these down, except for this one was written down by Mabel Collins, the one in front. I've got copies and links to free. Some of these texts. Light on the Path is available free. There's other ones that we have. The Voice of the Silence is a free PDF in links. You can also Google them. So don't just listen to me. Google this for yourself and always find out the truth for yourself. Thinking about the word Yogi Theosophy, a lot of people think, well, it's a different branch of Theosophy. No, it's not. Again, like a cabin crew member. Yogi Theosophy is not a different branch of Theosophy. It is simply meaning aspirant, one who studies, one who applies the wisdoms of Theosophy. Yogi meaning student. Theosophy meaning the actual Theosophical teachings. Please keep your arms and legs inside this video at all times while the video is in motion, and remain seated. Well, I used to be a tour guide at Universal Studios. I used to be a radio disc jockey. For years, did television. My on-camera days, they're over for what I used to do. The reason I'm even here doing this is because I feel that these teachings can help you, and I want to be of service. So I'm using the only skills I have, which is I can speak and I can edit and I can present. So I'm not a teacher. I'm sharing with you my experience. So Theosophical study is not just a one-time read-through. It's not just something you can study, read that, and you're like, I know Theosophy. There you go. That doesn't happen. It's not like a cerebral study of becoming a doctor or simple mathematics where you can memorize a theorem or a theory. It's like an onion with infinite layers that even when you revisit this information a week later, a month later, a year later, you will see new information that you didn't even know was there. And so by stumbling across these years ago, not that long ago, but by stumbling across them and being in a space of, it was excruciating pain in my personal life. It really was. But I was also in a very loving relationship with my husband. And it was like this perfect mix to pick up these books. And I actually heard what they were saying. And I thought, maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll apply that. And it changed my life. How? Well, it would be a sense of calm, a sense of peace, a sense of falling away, for lack of a better term. I call it the falling away. And life changed in such a humongous way that it led me to study with the Theosophical Society out of London, with the Universal Lodge, with online groups, excuse me. And I just wanted more. I was hungry for more, and I wanted to apply more. And I loved the way it made me feel. So that's why I'm here to share these with you. Now, these online groups, back in the day, all right, there were needs for lodges where people would go, and then you could meet like-minded folk, and you could study the texts. In the world of today, where there is infinite knowledge, and you have all the world's libraries at your fingertips, there is no more need for man-made buildings and leaders who have PhDs and they're president or, I don't know, chairman of the board. That's the old way of doing it. You don't need that. And almost always, now this is not for my Theosophical friends and fellow Theosophists who are genuinely there to help humanity and have stepped aside to simply learn, apply, and better the world. This is for those who are corrupted by the greed, the power, the control. That happens in most every church. Every church. So anyway, stay away from the groups where there's a hierarchy of teachers, whether it be subliminal or conscious. We have been conditioned to believe that a spiritual superhero is going to descend from the skies. And then there is our spirituality outside of ourselves. That person is our savior. That's not the way that it is. It's you. It's you. The divine spark is within you. You've heard us talk about that all the time. Anyway, it's not outside yourself. It's within you. You are your own guru. You're your own teacher. You're the one who can apply these and change your life. Hang on one second. Spot of tea. I've had the pestilence this last week, so I'm a little subdued. But anyway, okay. Yeah, it was dreadful. Sorry. Okay, so we're starting out with, well, let's see. Okay, anyone with a genuine interest and selfless desire can become a theosophist, a yogi theosophist, if you will, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so really quick before we crack the book, the first object of the Theosophical Society, or of Theosophy, is to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, caste, creed, sex, or color. Did I put that in the right way? Either way. Okay, that universal nucleus, for some reason, people think that it has to go to religious summits. If you're applying the religion within yourself and you're affecting those around you, you don't need to go to a summit. That's ego, okay? The application, this universal heart, nucleus means heart, okay? So to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity does not mean theosophists pontificating with other theosophists or other religious leaders. It has to do with you applying the theosophical truths to your own life and affecting those around you and in your immediate vicinity. You are the point, and the circle is your theosophical study. All right? That is the nucleus. And if we were all theosophists from pure desire to help humanity, not for personal growth or wealth or fame or notoriety or any of that, then we could very well have peace on earth. So let's get started. Okay, let's get started. Here we go. All right, the key to Theosophy, as we talked about before, man, I've rambled on. I've rabbited on, as they say over here in the UK. I'm a Californian living in the United Kingdom. Anyway, here we go. The key to Theosophy is in question and answer form. So if you're new here, we've started this a few weeks ago, and I do little teeny tiny bits at a time. The Theosophist will answer the questions of the inquirer. This was 130 years ago, 1889, almost 130. Anyway, let's get started. Here we go. What is your explanation of it? The question is asked, and it meaning the secret wisdoms or Theosophy. The Theosophist answers, real ecstasy was defined by Plotinus, the liberation of the mind from its finite consciousness, becoming one and identified with the infinite. This is the highest condition, says Professor Wilder, but not one of permanent duration, and it is reached only by the very, very, very few. It is indeed identical with that state which is known in India as samadhi. The latter is practiced by the yogis who facilitate it physically by the greatest abstinence in food and drink, and mentally by an incessant endeavor to purify and elevate the mind. Meditation is silent and unuttered prayer, or as Plato expressed it, the ardent tuning of the soul toward the divine, the ardent turning of the soul toward the divine. And not to ask for any particular good, but for universal supreme good, of which we are a part of here on earth, and out of the essence of which we have all emerged. Therefore, adds Plato, remain silent in the presence of the divine ones, till they remove the clouds from thy eyes, and enable thee to see by the light which issues from themselves, not what appears as good to thee, but what is intrinsically good. Now there is a footnote here. I'm not going to read the footnote because otherwise we'll go on forever. I will include a footnote in the blog. And if you'd like to see this at Yogi Theosophy. All right. Next question. Theosophy then is held by some as a newly devised scheme. Answer is only ignorant people can thus refer to it. It is as old as the world, in its teachings and ethics, if not in name, as it is also the broadest and most Catholic system among all. Now don't freak out. The word Catholic means embracing or universal, all-encompassing, broad. As a matter of fact, I'll include a link from a Franciscan priest who explains the word Catholic as its Greek origin, kath meaning through or throughout, and holos meaning whole. So it means throughout the whole, all-encompassing. It doesn't just mean Roman Catholics. Okay, so don't believe me, Google. There you go. Next question. How comes it then that Theosophy has remained so unknown to nations of the Western Hemisphere? Why should it have been a sealed book to races? Now, races does not mean ethnicity. Races means, I'm interjecting this here because it's important. Race means a wave of humanity, a period of mankind, all colors, all cultures, all everything. A time of mankind inhabiting the earth. Race does not mean ethnicity. Okay. Confessedly, and the most cultured and advanced. Theosophist says, we believe that there were nations as cultured in days of old, and certainly more spiritually advanced than we are. But there are several reasons for this willing ignorance. One of them was given by St. Paul to the cultured Athenians, a loss for long centuries of real spiritual insight and even interest, owing to their too great devotion to things of sense and their long slavery to the dead letter of dogma and ritualism. But the strongest reason for it lies in the fact that real theosophy has ever been kept secret. Inquirer. You have brought forward proofs that such secrecy has existed, but what was the real cause for it? Theosophist answers, the causes for it were, firstly, the perversity of average human nature and its selfishness, always tending to the gratification of personal desires, to the detriment of neighbors and next of kin. And that is as true today as ever before. However, I do have hope, and that's why I'm here. And that's why you're here. Okay. Such people could never be entrusted with divine secrets. Secondly, their unreliability to keep the sacred and divine knowledge from desecration. It is in the latter that led to the perversion of the most sublime truths and symbols, and to the gradual transformation of things spiritual into the anthropomorphic, the concrete, and gross imagery. In other words, to the dwarfing of the God idea and to idolatry. Theosophy is not Buddhism. Okay, please forgive me because I pronounce Buddha the way that I've heard it, and if we say it wrong, it means old man. So I'm including a link to how to properly pronounce Buddha. It's a soft D, and I don't say it correctly through here. I'm sure I make mistakes, so I'm going to try to do my best. Inquirer, you are often spoken of as esoteric Buddhists. Are you then all followers of Gautama Buddha? Theosophist, no more than musicians are all followers of Wagner. Some of us are Buddhists by religion, yet there are far more Hindus and Brahmins than Buddhists among us, some more Christian-born Europeans and Americans than converted Buddhists. The mistake has arisen from a misunderstanding of the real meaning of the title of Mr. Sennett's excellent work called Esoteric Buddhism. The last word ought to have been spelt with one instead of two D's. Okay? Then Buddhism, so I'm saying that with one D, would have been meant for what it was intended for, merely wisdomism. Bodha, bodhi, intelligence or wisdom, instead of Buddhism, which is it's called now, Gautama's religious philosophy. Theosophy, as already said, is the wisdom religion. Inquirer, what is the difference between Buddhism, the religion founded by the prince of Kapilavastu, and Buddhism, or Buddhism, the wisdomism of which you say is synonymous with Theosophy? Theosophist, just the same difference as there is between the secret teachings of Christ, which are called the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, and the latter ritualism and dogmatic theology of the churches and sects. That's with a TS. Buddha means the enlightened by Bodha, Bodha, or understanding, wisdom. This has passed root and branch into the esoteric teachings that Gautama Buddha imparted to his chosen arhats. And the arhats are people who are worthy. Arhats, spelled A-R-H-A-T. arhats. Okay, next question. But some Orientalists deny that Buddha ever taught any esoteric doctrine at all. Answer. They may as well deny that nature has any hidden secrets for the men of science. Further on, I will prove that by Buddha's conversation with his disciple Ananda, his esoteric teachings were simply the Gupta Vidya, meaning secret knowledge, of the ancient Brahmins, the key to which their modern successors have, with few exceptions, completely lost. And this Vidya has passed into now what is known as the inner teachings of the Mahayana school of Northern Buddhism. Those who deny it are simply ignorant pretenders to Orientalism. I advise you to read the Reverend Mr. Edkin's Chinese Buddhism, especially the chapters on the exoteric, meaning well-known, esoteric, meaning hidden or secret, schools and teachings, and then compare the testimony of the whole ancient world upon the subject. Another question. But are there not the ethics of Theosophy, are they not identical with those taught by Buddha? Certainly, Theosophist answers, because these ethics are the soul of the wisdom religion and were once commonly the property of the initiates of all nations. And Buddha was the first to embody these lofty ethics in public teachings and to make them the foundation of the very essence of his public system. It is herein that lies the immense difference between exoteric Buddhism and every other religion. For while in other religions, ritualism and dogma hold the first and most important place, but in Buddhism, it is the ethics which have always been the most insisted upon. This accounts for the resemblance, amounting to almost identity, between the ethics of Theosophy and those of the religion of Buddha. Inquirer. Are there any great points of difference? Theosophist. One great distinction between Theosophy and exoteric Buddhism is that the latter, represented by the Southern Church, entirely denies the existence of any deity and any conscious post-mortem life or even self-consciousness surviving individuality in man. Such, at least, is the teaching of the Siamese sect, now considered to be the purest form of exoteric Buddhism. And it is so if we refer to Buddha's public teachings. The reason for such reticence, which means silence or discretion, on his part, I will give further on. But the schools of the Northern Buddhist Church, established in those countries to which his initiated arhats retired after the master's death, teach all that is now called Theosophical doctrines, because they form part of the knowledge of the initiates, thus proving how the truth has been sacrificed to the dead letter by the too zealous orthodoxy of Southern Buddhism. But how much grander and more noble and more philosophical and scientific, even in its dead letter, is this teaching than any other church or religion. Yet, Theosophy is not Buddhism. There you go. All right, so I've included some links for you down below. That was a long one. I appreciate you being here. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a line. You can find me on all the things on Instagram and YouTube. Well, obviously, you're here on YouTube. You can also find me over on Twitter and Facebook and the website, of course, yogitheosophy.com. This is a community, but it doesn't have any members because you and your community. And if you can do this with yourself, by yourself, to yourself, then you affect those around you. And we can study together, but you don't need to belong or sign up or pay anybody for these teachings. They are available absolutely free. And I thank you for being with me today. I love you.